Okay, everybody, hi. This is Mike Huberty and
Roy Elkins,
talking from Broadjam here in lovely Madison, Wisconsin, enjoying a fall day, a warm fall day,
60 degrees here today,
which is very nice. And welcome to our Broadjam Music Hangout, where we'll be talking about things for your music career and taking some questions too in the Q&A. I'll open up the Q&A over here, and then you guys can jump in and ask any kind of questions in the chat or the Q&A if you like. So anyway, right now, let's start by talking a little bit about pitching your music.
Yep.
So Roy, if you were getting a pitch ready with your song, and you can get at broadjam.com/Roy Elkins, they can listen to one of your songs.
Oh, it's my hit. It's my hit.
That was there, yeah. Roy's biggest hit. Time is running out. But let's say you want to pitch Time is Running Out to a publisher or a music supervisor. What would you do to prepare that?
Well, I think the first thing is always think about the person on the other end and make sure that your materials are prepared. And let's just start out with your profile page, because almost everybody that we talk to, when they're getting ready to make a deal with a musician or a songwriter, they'll go to their profile page first, and or their profile page on Broadjam or wherever the music came from, and just check this person out. Make sure their metadata is all filled out. Now, the supervisor doesn't care if the data is filled out, but what I'm saying is that you should fill all that out. So, like, for example, on our site, we have short description of the song, long description of the song, the genres, all of those things need to be filled out so you can provide as much information as possible. Put a few photos up there. Anything you can add to help somebody know who you are and get to know you a little better. I think that's really important. The web has made it kind of, it's, face-to-face communication is a great thing, but the web has kind of flattened that a little, and it's taken that person-to-person relationship out of it. So, so anything you can do just to let them get to know who you are, because all of us want to work with people, that we can get along with, that we work well with together. The second thing is make sure all your promo materials are perfect. And what I mean by that, no spelling errors, none of that. Make sure it's all as perfect as it can get. And you have relevant photos. So we know what country looks like. We know what rap looks like. Even if you're pitching and they're asking for a promo kit or they go to your profile page, make sure that everything you're presenting, you put as much effort into that presentation as you did your music. And we talk about this a lot here, where someone will say, I worked really hard on this record. And you and I both know that when we go in the studio, I've never worked hard on any project, because I can be in the studio anytime, any day. It's never hard work.
I've never worked hard on anything.
Yeah. Including Broadjam.
Right. I
did want to talk to you about that later.
Okay, fair enough.
But the point is that we love what we do. We love being in the studio. The hard work starts is when you're done. And what do you do when the music is done? And what we're talking about here is just getting everything complete and accurate and up to speed, and making sure that your contact information is on every piece that you send to anybody, whether it's an email signature or it's on a CD or whatever you're sending to folks. Make sure they can get a hold of you instantly. Another good point is to have a dot wave, an instrumental, a 30-second and a 60-second version ready to go. So if you mix a song down and you have a vocal on it, just hit the mute button and take another shot through and just burn another version of that. So if somebody wants to use your song, but the vocal is getting in the way of the dialogue, but they really like the groove, then you can get it to them instantly. You don't have to go back to the studio and recut it. So when you're cutting your music, make sure you always have instrumentals ready to go. Now, many of you probably know this already, but it's really important to get this stuff prepared ahead of time, just like the music's prepared ahead of time. Think about that. If somebody, if a supervisor said, listen, I'd like a country song, and you got to go write it. It's the same approach here. Make sure all of your support materials for your music is ready to go ahead of time. The other question that is often asked is who do you sound like? And you should have an answer to that question. Remember, the music industry is pretty homogenized, and that the person on the other end is really busy, and they want to know immediately where they can go with you. And if you can help them get to that decision faster. Now, everybody has their own unique sound, but you probably are influenced by somebody that you sound a little like. So just know the answer to that question. You might even include that in your profile materials. That's the basics of it, Mike. I mean, just make sure your materials are ready to go and as good and as professional as your music. That's what I'm trying to say there.
Well, I think that's good to talk about when you are pitching music. You know, they always say there's no second chance to make a first impression.
Right.
Obviously,
Exactly.
You've heard that a million times. And so when you are introducing your songs to somebody, think about are you presenting your package as a, you know, we talk about branding, and musicians hate the term branding more than anything else, right? Oh, branding! Don't put me into a corner. Well, that corner. I mean, that needs to be a shorthand. That corner is a shorthand to people who are buying music, to kind of just let them know right away what you're all about. I mean, if you play in a death metal band or something, and you wear like tutus on stage. I mean, obviously that might be your shtick. If you're a death metal band and wears tutus, I'd probably go see it. But what I mean is, like, we have a visual language that's almost as important. I mean, almost or not more important than our auditory language and stuff. And so make sure that your visual language is presenting the thing that you want to say, and it should be a unified package. People should see, you know, it. Yes, I mean, they say it's all about the music, and it kind of is all about the music, but it's all about everything coming together. I mean, rock and roll is a lot of times is fashion as much as it is anything else.
Yeah, right.
You know, when one of the things about karaoke, why is karaoke funny when a guy in a pocket protector and you know, a short sleeve
You've
dress?
seen that guy?
Yes, a short like the kind of people that wear short sleeve dress shirts with ties. Right, it looks like your high school math teacher.
Right.
When that guy comes up and sings a song, you know, he goes up and sings "Born to Be Wild" or something like that. Why is that funny? It's because it's incongruous to the guy in the short sleeve dress shirt with a tie is singing "Born to Be Wild."
That's right.
If some dude with long hair and a biker jacket sings it, that like all of a sudden that karaoke doesn't have that effect. It's like, wow, that dude should be in a band.
Yeah. You know, ultimately, you're absolutely right. Ultimately, the music is going to be the reason someone is selected or not selected, or signed or not signed, or gets the bar gig or doesn't get the bar gig. Well, the bar gig, probably there's a lot to the look and the performance as well.
Absolutely.
You want to make it as easy as possible for that person to get to the music. You know, a person I know is a radio DJ, and what she tells me is that she hosts a folk radio show, and she says if the artist writes on the outside of the envelope on the back of it, says, I have a gig at this certain in your area at this time, and could you include me on the air at this, you know, a week before the gig? So if you can put just a couple statements on the outside of the envelope, it goes in the pile to consider, as opposed to the 40 that just come in the same envelope. So anything you can do to help them to get to their decision as fast as possible, you know, you go above and beyond what everyone else is doing. Ultimately, the music is the decision. You know, that's the deciding factor. But it makes it a lot easier for the people on the other end if they can really understand what it's about before they can even hear it. Now, and also make sure that the descriptions, the photos, and all that reflect what it's about. You would hate to, you know, sound like a 38 Special, and then and your promo kit looks like Anya. I mean, that doesn't work.
It's
you know,
a completely different thing.
So. And those are old bands, by the
way. No,
I've
heard 30. I've heard of 38 Special. Right? They hold on loosely, and actually, it was a funny thing. We were having a conversation in our band van one time as to what would be if you died at a concert. Like if something happened, like say a meteor hit the concert or something like that. If you died at a concert, what would be the most embarrassing one to die at? You know, And my answer was 38 Special. That was, you know, because it could be like, is it the Wiggles? Well, no, if you have kids, maybe you're watching the Wiggles. Is it Lady Gaga? No, she's got a shtick and she's talented. It's 38 Special. Because you're not, I mean, you're hearing warmed over Leonard Skinner hits.
Well, they weren't too bad.
No, I'm not saying they were a bad
Skinner
band.
wasn't too bad.
I'm just saying Skinner, they created the Southern rock. I mean, well,
I think you have to go back to
Allman Brothers, you
yeah,
know.
and Skinner.
But I mean, but Skinner made it a little heavier and stuff, and then 38 Special brought it into the pop metal territory.
Yeah, right.
And so by the time it got there, it was just diluted. It's like, you know, when you.
Yeah, by the time you got 38 Special and Molly Hatchet and those bands, it was a little diluted.
Right, like Molly Hatchet, like they're flirting with disaster. Like everybody knows the album cover, but does anybody even know another Molly Hatchet song other than Flirting with Disaster?
Yeah. A friend of mine used to play that. Their band used to play that song, and they did a great job doing that song back in the day.
Hey, back in the day,
yeah.
Molly Hatchet. Okay.
Not that we digress.
We're talking about, okay, if you want to jump in the group chat, feel free to say something. If anybody has okay.
Oh,
people are putting some of their comments in under the event, and we can answer some questions under the event. Okay, so this is from Mark Nordine, and Mark starts saying, do people want to see personal information that's not related to their music?
That's a good question, Mark. I don't think that ultimately makes the decision on the music, but you know, whatever business you're in, just getting to know the people you're working with is not a bad thing. I don't think you have to write your life story or your entire history, but you know, so and so by day, musician by night. I mean, I don't think something like that ever hurts. To let the person buying the music know exactly what you do. You know, I don't think that's a problem at all. I wouldn't focus on that, but I don't think that a couple lines of your you know, situation would hurt at all.
I think it's part of the package. I mean, sometimes it's a gimmick, sometimes it's but it's all part of what you are presenting, because a lot of music is just as much context as it is. You know, people have an idea sometimes in their head before they even listen to the song. And if you're creating that in your personal information, like let's say you're a double amputee or something, both your arms are gone, and you're a piano player.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I know that sounds ridiculous, but I saw a woman in Atlantic City play the keyboard with her tongue. She didn't have arms. Okay?
I'd have to see this act.
And
was it good?
It was, I mean, it was okay, but we were watching this woman play the keyboard, you know, with the head and stuff like that. Okay, so what I did, I gave her a couple bucks. Yeah. Whereas a person with both arms playing that way, I wouldn't have done that.
And I know just interrupt for a second. Sometimes what we find here at Broadjam, we don't know what to believe when Mike is talking.
No, it's absolutely true.
So you may have that same.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if she's still performing at Atlantic City. This was a while ago. But
good for her though. If she's out there gigging, good for her.
But that's a personal context that goes beyond. Right. Now, Susan Boyle obviously had a beautiful voice.
Right.
But Susan Boyle, as this 48-year-old virgin from England that had
we're going in a direction we probably shouldn't.
But that was right in the initial headlines that they talked about within the British newspapers. And the thing is, we're like, okay, all this stuff about Susan Boyle, her personal life, made it into
it became part of her story.
And that's what we're talking about. Do people want to hear personal info? If you got a great story, then absolutely use that in your press material. I mean, those things about Susan Boyle helped make it. I mean, she walks out on stage and everybody's like, who is this dowdy, frumpy person, right? And then remember when you see Simon Cowell's face, we're like, holy crap. Like, I can't believe she can do this. Her personal story, her personal look, all contributed to her success and to selling, hundreds of thousands of records.
It's probably not a bad idea. One thing I would stay away from, and we see this a lot. I've been playing since I was 2. I've been playing since I was 5. That, although it's a good line item, but it's never good to start off with that, because it doesn't matter. think about the things that matter. What does the person on the other end want to know? They want to know what the music's about, what you're about.
Mhm.
You know, and you know, experience doesn't mean quality. I had a friend, a friend of mine. His name was Rory Bennett. He was just a fabulous bass player, and he started playing keyboards. And 2 years later, in the 80s, he was playing with the Stylistics, which is the R&B band out of Philly.
Okay,
Had a couple
fantastic.
of hits, yeah. And within about 10 years, I think he was signed to Quincy Jones Publishing. And then he produced Casey and JoJo's record, All of Me, which was a Grammy-nominated record.
Right, no, I heard songs off that one.
Just a fabulous musician. And the guy had only been playing about 10 or 12 or 13 years. I don't even know. It wasn't very long. But as soon as he picked up an instrument, it was just a gift for him. And he just blew it out. And so it doesn't really matter. What matters is, you know, the story behind it.
Absolutely.
Maybe there is a story there for him. So just keep that in mind. You know, we see this a lot. I've been playing 40 years or 30 years. Just remember, the captain of the Titanic sailed for 26 years, the same route every single day. So it really experience doesn't matter when the final decision comes.
Sure.
It's part of it.
I think that's a great point, Roy. When people say, because also most of the people in the music industry are players.
Yeah, yeah.
So we all have been playing, you know, since we were 2. Well,
That's
since
right.
we were, I mean,
That's
big
right.
exaggeration. But so everybody's been playing for their lives. They've loved music. Yeah. So you might want to talk about if you had some formative experience, like if you say, remember like a lot of people talk about the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. Like I wanted to be a musician because I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Right.
Now you're immediately making that connection. There's a baby boomer moment that you can share with the person you're trying to get across, or so those certain kinds of things. Like I was at Woodstock and I saw Jimi Hendrix play the Star Spangled Banner, and it changed my life. Now you're connecting that history with, you know, to something, instead of saying like I've been playing the piano since you know, or like I've been playing guitar since I was 6. You're saying this moment formed me.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think that's important. Or let's say you had a teacher, a well-known teacher, like, you know, you took guitar lessons from Leo Kottke, or you studied piano with Rick Wakeman or somebody like that.
Right.
And I mean, if you have some of those moments, or you studied at a specific school at a certain age, that is how you want to use that in your promo. But just the statement, I've been playing forever, everybody uses that. So read bios from other folks and see the strengths and weaknesses. What do they write that turns you on? What do they write that is just the same old stuff? And remember, your bio should be as good as your music. And
that's right. That's a great point. You know, like Joe Satriani talked about he was Steve Vai's guitar teacher. Mm-hmm. And there's a guy in Milwaukee too, who is kind of the teacher or the mentor for one of the guitar players from Creed and Alter Bridge and stuff. And so when you see a press kit, it's like, I am this already popular artist's mentor, teacher, work together. Okay, now I've got the language where I know where you're coming from because you're the guy, you've played together with that person, with someone I recognize.
But that's an excellent question. I think it's we get a lot of questions around music, but that was a good question. Now that we're on that topic, I'll throw in a couple other things. One of the things we see quite often in bios or we're told is somebody will say, I can write in every genre. And that may be the case, or I can play in multiple genres, blah, blah, blah. And that may be the case, and maybe you can write in every genre. But the problem with that is the person on the other end is not hearing that. What they're hearing is that has never happened in the history of the music industry. Nobody has been successful ever writing in every genre. So
Slash can play blues, but have you heard Slash play jazz guitar?
Well, yeah. I've heard Sting and Billy Joel's classical records, and they're not bad, but they certainly didn't sell like their pop records,
Right.
And they're not bad, but that's just stretching into a couple of genres. Most people are successful in one genre, period, and whether they're an artist or a writer or whoever they are. Now, some can stretch and go into 2 or 3 other genres, but it's very unlikely that someone can write in every genre out there as effectively as it can. So, and that is, it's a statement that when it's heard on the other end, it's just not believable. So leave that kind of stuff out. Or another one might be, I arranged all the music, I produced, I engineered it, I mixed it, I sang every song, I played played the instruments, I booked the band, I managed the band, and that may be the case. You may do that. But again, that is a statement that is not going to be received how you think it might be when you state it. So just kind of leave that stuff somewhere else.
The singular talent that can do every single thing on a record and have the record come out be awesome consists of Prince.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Does your name end with Prince? If it does, let's talk about how you did everything. If not, then you need to have some context behind it. Like I did all that. Like Bon Iver talks about, producing and working on his record Songs for Emma. That was his breakthrough. That he did inside a cabin in northern Wisconsin, and he was going through this tough time in his life. And he can talk about all that because he did this in his cabin and has a context behind it. It's like, and when you listen to it, you're thinking about a dude sitting in a cabin in the winter in northern Wisconsin, which is no thank you, and so you get that. But if you're hearing a pop record and say, hey, everything's done by me, it's like, I really hope you're super talented. I hope you're super talented.
Well, and remember, there's a reason that engineers are really good at what they do. When you let somebody like a Chuck Ainley out of Nashville, this is because he engineers records all day long, every day.
His job.
And that's his job. And you do get better at it over time. And a lot of times we get a nice board at home and we get we get Cubase or Pro Tools and we think we're going to go through it and do it as effectively. And we might, but certainly not in the same amount of time. That's somebody who does it day in and day out. So just kind of, keep in mind what you're really promoting. If you're promoting yourself, maybe that's the way to describe it. But if you're promoting your music and your song, that is really irrelevant because ultimately the music is going to make the decision.
Right. You can't. You can get over a bad image in a lot of places, but you can never get over a bad song.
That's right.
You can improve somebody's image, but are people going to sit there and are they going to woodshed with you, until you're good?
Yeah.
Not, unless you're rich or famous.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah. That's right.
So I think that's a great point, Roy. And let's get back. There's still a couple more questions.
Yeah, sure.
In the actual thing here. Oh, Todd.
Oh, yeah.
Joseph Kirby. Todd Rundgren.
Todd
yes,
Rundgren.
Todd Rundgren is a massive talent.
Sorry, we missed that one, Joseph.
We saw him play at NAMM this year, and he obviously.
Oh my God,
he's great.
Yeah, he was just he was awesome then. He was awesome in the '70s. One of my favorite albums of all time is Grand Funk's American Band that Todd Rundgren produced. They went from stardom to superstardom when he produced that record. Thanks for bringing that up, Joseph.
And he also, I think about the work he did on Bat Out of Hell, which was the biggest selling album for a long time. And
great producer.
Todd, you're great.
Good songwriter too. Philly boy. What's the other questions here?
It's Mark Henthling. Do they want to see personal information? Okay. And are you saying they might not be interested in my song, but my profile page might tip them into not going for it? If someone's interested in your song, but your profile page might tip them.
Well, that's not a bad thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're let me go ahead. You want to take a shot?
Well, I'm just saying if this is a particular Broadjam associated question, then let's think of it from a Broadjam perspective. Number one, like let's say a music supervisor is listening to someone's song on Broadjam, how your profile could affect that, and then we can get into the larger question of how your image can affect people's purchase of your music.
Well, I think there's a couple things that kind of how I read Mark's question is that if the profile is really bad and the music's great, will that affect the decision? I guess it depends. If there's a bunch of hateful stuff on a profile, it might affect somebody's decision.
Absolutely, you can associate with
You know, I mean, if it's a bunch of, you know, like we read this stuff on Facebook all the time, you know, people posting, you know, anti this, anti that, and maybe someone making a decision comes to your profile, they see something like that, and that might say to that, you know, they might say, I don't want to work with that guy.
Right.
I don't think the profile is going to completely change the decision on music. I think what you want to do, what the profile should be there for, is to encourage them to get to the music.
Right.
You know, I think once they get the music, it's not going to affect the decision-making process at all, unless it's crazy. It's just.
I mean, people
crazy.
never want to be associated with racism, sexism, or
hateful speech.
anything Nazi kind of stuff. Like, if
Yeah.
you have even a little bit of that, like it's poison.
Yeah, and when we talk publicly, one of the things we talked about that is that if you have a Facebook page and you got a whole bunch of hateful speech from friends on your Facebook page, I think you should probably just unfriend it, because that's one of the first things people in the industry do when they develop a new relationship. They connect to them on Facebook, they connect to them on LinkedIn, and make sure that stuff is just removed.
And one thing about the entertainment industry is that it's just very diverse. You know, and compared to other kinds of jobs, the entertainment industry is very diverse because people really come to this job through all different kinds of walks of life and all creeds, colors, whatever. And so nobody wants to deal with somebody who's going to have hang-ups and all that kind of stuff. If you gotta go through some things and stuff like that, well, go through some things over there, but we're not going to help you, you know, do that.
If you got hang-ups, write a song about it.
Right.
That's how you express it.
Get it out
there.
there.
Through song. You know, so.
But yeah, that's definitely something to think about.
That was a good point. Good question.
Yeah, there's a
what else we got here?
Isn't it possible that our Broadjam profile page can be all or at least most of what we need for a public presence?
Well, we like to think so, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we like to think we're the only site in the world, but no, you know, what we have always said is that put your profile on as many pages as you can manage effectively, or as many sites as you can manage effectively. You know, the last thing anybody wants to do is come to a page where there's no photo or there's 200 pages about this, or 200 sites about this artist with no photo. You know, if you don't have a lot of time, then create a Broadjam profile page. And you know, ours is pretty extensive, probably more extensive than most.
No, I think so.
We ask for a lot of detail about the songs. We show the reviews of the songs, the positive comments. We have a lot of stuff there. And it's possible it could be the only one you need, especially in pitching, because this is what we do, and everything we do is customized around that.
But I would also say, like, one of the, you know, we recommend is a .com. Like, that's, you know, that's your best thing, and that's why we have that service in, you know, in Broadjam hosting, because your Broadjam profile page then, I mean, just syncs up to your, you know, your .com, and you put in your information. It's on your own website. You know, as Primo members, they all get the hosting, and so you can have your own website without having the program and things like that. And so I would say have your own .com, and then can't program, we can do that for you.
Yeah, you know, if you go to royelkins.com, for example, I mean, I go to my profile page, and whatever I change on my profile page, it changes at royelkins.com. And by the way, you can listen to my hit at
time is running out. I've listened to it a lot.
Everybody here has to listen to it every morning.
Pretty much, it's
part of that.
We have employee playlists. Or from Dear Leader over here.
Oh God, if they hear that, they're probably never coming back.
No, it's but yeah. So Broadjam profile page is pretty complete, and also we do have a good deal of Google juice. So when people are looking you up, your Broadjam page will show up, you know, on the first page usually, if they're looking for your music. But I mean, it's extensive, and we got plenty of info. But I mean, to look like a pro, have your own website, and
and put a lot of photos up there, even if it's photos of your, you know, just different shots of you, your studio, your whatever. You know, your profile photo shouldn't be a shot of your high school photo or a dog or a child. You know, put a photo up there that represents who you are, and then put some other photos up there. You can save those other spaces for those kinds of things, you know, and make sure your bio is just good. You know, think about that like you think about writing a song. Write a paragraph about yourself that completely encapsulates what you are as a songwriter and artist. That is so important. You want people to come into your site and your profile because of they've heard about your music, and you want to bring them in further because of the way you present yourself.
You know, and that's that's an important point, I think. And a lot of people say, like, well, I'm a songwriter. I'm not a writer. I don't write marketing copy. I'm not writing an ad for myself.
Right. That's a good point.
That's okay. Just you must have had some friends that were good in English class. Call them up. Just be like, hey, you know, you want to do me a favor, or I'll take you out for beers or something like that, or any kind of thing that you do as a favor for a buddy that would just help you write a couple of paragraphs, and also gives you a third-party perspective on your career and your music and the songs you write.
Right.
Because here's another, how many times have you heard, Roy, when somebody's like, well, what do you sound like? And then they'll say something totally crazy. You know, I sound like the Beatles, but I also kind of sound like Public Enemy, but I also kind of sound like John Coltrane.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. You know, and then you listen to the music and it sounds like Metallica.
Yeah,
like,
right.
So,
It's not even like that. Yeah.
So you have your own subjective experience with your music, and it might be good to get an outsider's opinion when you do that bio, just so you portray it correctly. A lot of people confuse influences with sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They confuse it with who they want to sound like. And who do your fans say you sound like?
Okay.
Mike plays a lot of gigs here in Madison.
So
who do they tell you sound like?
So with my band, you know, we get various kind of things. I mean, lately a lot of it is Muse. We've heard Green Day in the past. We even heard like, oh, I hear little bits of Iron Maiden in there, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so you'll think that like, okay, you know that you're getting a hard rock, you know, punk-ish kind of band if you take those bands. If you take Muse and Green Day and Iron Maiden, you're like, okay, these are different, and they're almost the same spectrum though. So their part of the spectrum is the hard rock area of the spectrum. Distorted guitars, the music might be fast, you know, punky metal. Like this is their spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not weird for a fan of one band to like a fan of the other band.
Right.
To then like my band. And that's kind of, you want to stay in that. Spectrum.
Just saying those three bands, I think anybody listening to this would know probably what kind of music you're going to play tonight if they're coming to a gig.
Right.
And they read your bio.
And they should come to my gig tonight at the Badger Bowl, but that's all right.
By the way, the Badger Bowl is a great place to play here in Madison, Wisconsin. Sometimes when you say you're playing at a bowling alley, it is not the best gig in the whole
it's an
world.
actual.
I'm just giving you a little plug.
It's an actual venue.
They have a stage and they have a dance floor and
stuff like that.
And a ball return that comes right up next to the drum kit. But
that's right. No, I mean, we're playing on the lanes. Actually, we did play on the lanes one time.
Oh, you did?
In Minneapolis. There's a place called Memory Lanes, and they put the bands on the actual lanes.
Oh.
And we played to that. It's super fun.
Not while the people are bowling, though, right?
No, there's people bowling.
No, not on that lane.
Not on that lane. No, they make the band. They really
bad.
They really make the bands work for it. So, okay. Oh, looks like we're running out of battery. So I'm going to grab that thing, and I'm going to give you a question to talk about.
Or we can hear. I mean.
But before I'll give you.
Okay.
Oh, somebody was asking a question about web templates. Are we planning to upgrade our web templates anytime soon? And
yeah, well, we're always upgrading. We're always looking at them. And,
put new ones in, and stuff like that.
We don't have anything in progress right now, but on occasion, a couple times a year, we put quite a few new templates up. So stay tuned.
Fantastic. Well, since we talked about pitching and stuff like that, Roy, why don't you go to maybe what not to say in a pitch, and I'll go get the power cable. We'll be right back.
Yeah. On occasion, you know, we'll get people pitching us, or friends of mine will tell me things that they've actually heard. And one of the things you consistently hear is my friends and family love it. Obviously, we know that that's not going to influence anyone. But just make sure that, you know, your commentary is based around the support of your music. You know, and when, you know, you make excuses like, well, I don't, we're on a limited budget, we couldn't really do the vocals properly, then I wouldn't pitch it. You know, and we hear things like that a lot, or you know, my drummer it didn't work well during the session, or, you know, then remember, products are not late or early, or you know, pricey or not pricey. They're good or bad to the listener's mind. So you want to make sure when you're pitching to somebody, especially if you get a chance in their office, that there's never any excuses. You're ready to go. When you're sitting there across from somebody, you're selling your product. I don't mean to demean the music, but just by saying you're selling it. But a lot of times we'll hear somebody say like, the limited budget comes up quite a bit, or I'm not really excited about this. We did it too quickly. We didn't have enough time in the studio, or I didn't put enough time into it. That isn't how you sell. You wouldn't want to go into a car dealership and the car salesman will stand there and say something like, well, we're going to put the third tire on it here next week.
Yeah, right.
Or, it didn't come with a trunk, or a trunk lid. I mean,
you can do some of that stuff. Excuse me. You can do some of that if you've developed relationships with people over the course of a long period. You can be like, hey, you can play maybe something unfinished once you're friends with people and you want to try to get honest opinions. But first impressions, you don't want to. First impressions, you don't want to come in looking like you don't have a great product.
Right. That's exactly right. You want to make sure that every word that comes out of your mouth is in sync with what's on that demo, what's in sync with the promo kit. So when you're pitching, you look like you have your stuff together. Now, if you're on the phone, and this goes back to what we were talking about before, if somebody's looking for a 30-second version, you can just email it to them quickly. It's ready to go right there. Everything is prepared ahead of time. And like I said a second ago, the hard work starts when we get done making music, because sometimes we don't even know what to do.
Right.
What do you do?
You have a song. Great.
So hopefully a few of these things you can at least control yourself. You can get your promo together, whether it's an online promo or a physical kit, but just make sure that everything is as buttoned down as your music is.
Mm-hmm. And that's completely right.
What other questions do we have?
Well, real quick, I thought that this is a really good point.
Okay.
When you talk about your pitch.
We have to the right here. We have just a list of points that we talk about when we do presentations. I did a few yesterday, so I just brought along so we don't forget something here.
Resist explaining what your song is about. I think that is such an important point, because when you hear a song on the radio, or somebody hears a song at the end of the credits of a movie or something like that, there's no explanation.
Yeah.
There's no, you are hearing it in that context. You're hearing it on the radio. And I'd say most songs on the radio, people listening don't even know what it's about.
Yeah. My rule here is this. If you have to explain what your song is about, you probably need to go rewrite the song. That's just my thought on this. Now, there's a lot of great songs like Stairway to Heaven. What the hell is that about? I still don't know what that song is about, but it's still a great song. But those are very, very rare. So especially when you're pitching to Nashville or someplace that's looking for songs and story songs, pop music, R&B, country, you don't have to explain what the song is about. The other point, too, we often see 45-second intros into a song. Get into it. Get into the story, especially if it's just a demo. Now, if you're pitching a finished product, that's a different thing. Right. But if it's a demo, get into the song, because whoever is going to license that song, they're going to recut it anyhow, and they're probably going to put their own intro on. But you shouldn't have to explain what the song is about. It should be very, very clear. And please don't start the song with "Our Love Is So Real," because you don't know how many times we hear things like that, and you have to. Your love may be so real, but figure out a different way to say it, because it's been said 1,000 times. And then a great example is AC/DC, "Shook Me All Night Long." They're not the first ones to do it, but they redefined what that line should be.
Absolutely,
how it should be sung, and it's really hard to sing that line as well as somebody else who made it their own. So figure out a different way to say those same words.
And I think that's a great point when you talk about, especially because a lot of the people that we work with at Broadjam, it's pitching to Nashville, or it's pitching to pop artists. And for that kind of thing, you can have a song that's got obscure things in it. You can have a song that's got, very personal to you, but it has to be so unique in the sound and catchy and all. Like, think about "Mbop" by Hanson. you know, 17 years on, I can't tell you what bop is about, you know. But what I can tell you, I can sing the song to you. You know, I can sing that track to you because it was so catchy.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing where, you know, if you're presenting something that people can't grasp intellectually right away, it has to grab them somewhere in their ears or in their heart. You know, I think about, so today I was working on a listing, and I put up one of the songs in the movie Once, okay? And I don't know any of the words to any of the songs in that movie, but there's certain songs I hear from that movie that I find the melody so compelling that I am moved, you know, just hearing it. And just I'm like, oh, the way the voices mix and the way that it goes. And that's, you know, if somebody played that song for me the first time, I'd be like, I don't care. You could be singing words from the phone book, and I will, which I think on a couple of Skid Row albums, there were the words for the phone book. But I love those albums. But I would have signed that song if it were anything. You know, if it just, you could be singing anything, but it's so compelling, and the voices sounded so beautiful together. But that's a once in every 250,000 songs.
That's right. Yeah.
So what you got to make the words compelling. You got to make it you got to make it easy to like it.
Yeah.
And I mean, some artists are good at that, and some artists aren't. But we're looking. If you're on Broadjam and you're pitching music to music supervisors, or you're pitching music to a newspaper, or in your personal life, chances are you want it to have some kind of mainstream appeal. That's why you're not in the basement. That's why you're out here promoting yourself. That's why you'd be listening to something like this, either right now live with us or listening on YouTube later.
Yeah. Well, since you bring that up, Mike, let me just jump to this this page here. Recently, and I think we might have talked about this a little in the last Hangout.
I'm sure, but it's always good to remind people.
You know, about once a year, I look at the top 100 songs. And since Mike brought up the, you know, wanting to be in the pop charts, wanting to be in the rock charts, and I thought maybe this would be a good segue here. I look at the top 100 songs, and I want to know how many writers are on the songs. Of the top 100 songs, what kind of music it is. This is our business, and we really have to know this, what's really popular. And I found it interesting this year. It changed slightly, and it's going in this direction. Of the top 100 songs on, I believe, is Billboard on the week of July 17th, you know, a few weeks ago, 94 songs had writers listed. The other 6 had producers. I didn't want to assume the producers were the writers. They probably were, but I didn't want to assume that for at least this exercise. So on those 94 songs, there were 359 writers, almost 4 writers per song. Of those 359, 281 of them were unique. 46 had more than one song on the chart. Only 8 songs of those 94 had one writer. Of those 8, all were written by the singer or the performer. John Legend, Pharrell Williams, this Costas, or somebody like that. I don't know.
Bob Costas is
no. This was.
He knows a lot about baseball.
I think there's a band from like South Africa or someplace like that.
It might be that Magic. Oh, they're from Canada.
But the point is, when you look at the stats, if you're a solo writer who's trying to get get a song on the Pop 100 chart, there's a 0% chance. And that is just about the same every year. And what happens is when you pitch, well, the artist will say, yeah, but I need to change a few lines around, and you're going to co-write. And then there might be a 3rd writer and a 4th writer. So that's the expectation to have. It's almost impossible as a solo writer anymore to get somebody else to cut your song and perform it. Of those 94 songs, half of those songs were country or pop. So if you're willing to work, here's kind of what I summarized. If you're willing to work with at least 2 other songwriters and you write country or pop, your odds increase dramatically. And if you throw R&B / hip hop in the pop, pop hip hop, that kind of genre, it probably goes up to about 70 or 75 of those 94 songs. So it's really it's important to know your marketplace and know what people are buying. And as we talk about in film and TV as well, since we're talking about marketplace, let's just jump back. the top. I looked at the top 10 songs a couple of weeks, or top 10 shows. I'm sorry, a couple of weeks ago. The top show is NCIS. Then America's Got Talent Tuesday. America's Got Talent Wednesday was 2 and 3. 60 Minutes, The Big Bang Theory, NCIS Los Angeles, Under the Dome, NFL preseason. This is just before the season started, I think. Big Brother and Unforgettable. Basically, there are 2 types of shows on television right now, and that's the crime dramas and the reality shows. And if you want to get your music placed in film and TV, understand what the marketplace is. Understand what is being purchased and what is being licensed. Now, a lot of the supervisors will tell you they want something unique and different. But if you're writing, accordion music with a rapper over the top with language and it's in German, you're probably not going to get licensed.
That's a type. That's very unique and different.
There may be a place for that somewhere, but the point is that understand the market you're pitching to. I really believe there's a place for every single song ever written in film or TV. There's some place.
That is a beautiful statement. And I wish I could agree with you.
Well, there is. I mean, years ago, we had I think the request was something like a crappy lounge singer. And if I remember right, it was, I don't know how many years ago it was, but we found it. It was a terrible song, but we found it.
Right. Okay. Right.
Now we don't want to name names or anything like that.
No. But if somebody's looking for something, it's like it needs to sound like Bill Murray as the launch singer. It's like, well, I know like 20 guys.
Well, and years ago on Bones, when we placed that death metal song on Bones, usually death metal is not going to be picked up for most TV shows. But there was a unique situation where the supervisor needed a death metal song, and we found the song for him.
And needed the actual. I mean, it was diegetic music too, because so it was actually being used in the program, not background music. Right. It was a featured part of the program.
That it was. It was the opening scene of the program. So the most important thing is to know what the top 10 or 20 shows are. And if you're pitching in Nashville, listen to current country music. Publishers on occasion, they'll give us a listing from Nashville or somebody label or something. And it's amazing how many songs we get that are easily 30, or the songwriting style itself is 30 or 40 years old. I mean, the songwriting, the lyric writing in Nashville is about as good as it gets. I mean, I've always said rap and country are very similar because both genres are written from the heart and written thoroughly and thought out. And I just
it has to be clever.
Yeah,
like that's the hook. The cleverness is part of the hook.
That's right. That's right. And so listen to the music if you're going to submit and say, does this song I wrote 20 years ago fit this listing? And a lot of times we think, my music is good for film and TV. My music is good for Nashville. And it may be, but it may not be the right time for it or may not be the right show. And so you want to really think through it. You have a product you're pitching and think about what is being bought right now. Now, I know a lot of people would argue with that, but I'm just trying to increase the odds.
Right, increase your chances. And the thing is, rules are made to be broken, right? You have to learn the rules before you can break them. I mean, that's a really good point, Roy, because if you say that my music is great for a crime drama, the music in a crime drama in 1977 is certainly different than the music in a crime drama in 2014. Like, if you write songs that sound like they belong on Chips, your music will only be used if somebody's doing a Chips parody or something like that, right? I mean, so the idea of a crime drama 20 years ago, it was so, or you think of, spooky dramas or things like the X-Files and how electronic all the music was and everything. And now that electronic composer sound is it's not as popular because it was popular for a while, and now they want something different.
It does change over time. I mean, you look at go back to the 60s, when I was growing up, the Beverly Hillbillies, I mean, everybody could recite every word to that. And you don't see those opening songs anymore that are so impactful. And it has completely changed. And plus, that banjo part in that song, that is the first song that every new banjo player wants to learn.
Sure, absolutely.
So I mean, there was a lot of musicianship. There was a serious lyric, right? If they had lyrics, and it's changed. It became pop songs and R&B songs like Hill Street Blues in the '80s, and now it's evolved into something a little different. But in the X-Files is a great example, completely different off the wall thing. But there is a style.
And if you think of that list of the NCIS, America's Got Talent, 60 Minutes, The Big Bang. I mean, 60 Minutes they even have music, or it's a
yeah. If you got a better clock, maybe send it to us.
Right. Maybe you get a thing. Under the Dome, the NFL. Looking at this list, do any of those things have a memorable theme song except for The Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
And
That's a good point.
And The Big Bang Theory. I mean, when I think of sitcoms and stuff, like even in the past 10 years, 15 years, how many of those shows, sitcoms, had the memorable theme songs like All in the Family, or any of that stuff, or Petticoat Junction, any of that stuff from the set, or Green Acres. Think about Green Acres. The leads.
I just want to sing it. Really, I just want to go into it right now.
I'll do the Ava Gabor part. But really, it's like those had memorable theme songs. Big Bang Theory, Malcolm in the Middle. I mean, they had memorable themes, but they were already by established. Big Bang Theory is bare naked ladies. So you get a geeky band to sing about a geeky show. Malcolm in the Middle is They Might Be Giants. The same kind of thing, because they knew that They Might Be Giant, and that's part of the branding. Yeah. Bare Naked Ladies is a band that's, a lot of people who think of themselves as intelligent like.
Yeah, right.
And so they want to appeal to that crowd. Same that's Malcolm Middle, the same kind of thing. Yeah. Just to go, like how things change is that those bands now are used by those shows to make the brand. Like that band is part of the show. You're thinking the fans of the Bare Naked Ladies might already like my show because of Bare Naked Ladies.
Well, that's kind of what we were talking about with the profile. I mean, the intro to the show is like the profile of the artist, in the sense.
And MTV isn't any different.
Yeah.
MTV will play between 25 and 30 songs in a 22-minute show. I mean, 15-second clips and stuff. And a lot of times they'll show the band in the bottom. But what else? Something that they pay attention to is your Twitter and Facebook following.
That's right.
Because the thing is, if they get 25 bands with 1,000 followers apiece, or 5,000 followers apiece, or whatever during their show, guaranteed that those bands are going to talk about being on MTV that night. We're going to be on The Real World.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to listen to us. Okay? In cable, where a small amount of people can move the meter, if an extra 50,000 people watch the show because 25 bands tweeted it to all of their followers, well, that might, that can move the needle in cable television.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how social media has played. And sometimes I think, when I was talking about the writers, that there may be something there as well. You have 3 or 4 top writers on a song, that certainly is not going to hurt you in the social media world by any means. So maybe that's why that's evolving as well.
Well, and when you think about how rap developed, how the biggest rap star of the past 20 years, arguably, I mean, Eminem. Yeah. I mean, who sold more records than Eminem? Rap,
in the last 10 years, probably.
Yeah, since 1999. And how does he get introduced? He gets introduced through Dr. Dre. He's featuring, Marshall Mathers on this track. Snoop Dogg featuring Snoop Dogg. I mean, so kind of hip-hop, that social method of introducing people in songs, they kind of perfected that. That became a thing where you would get introduced to a rapper, a hip-hop artist, through someone you already know. That's why you'll see, what was that? That was that Usher song from 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, what's the name of the song? And it's Usher and Snoop Dogg and Lil Jon, and plus the producers who worked on it too. It's all those guys that make it hit. It's not just it's not just Ursh, and it's not just Lil Jon. It's everybody, and I think it's really interesting. Can you feature other people on your track to help make that track more successful?
That's right. That's right. If that's what it takes, then do it. Yeah. What other questions do we have?
Okay.
We have a tendency to talk a little too much sometimes.
Absolutely.
Okay. From Fat IQ.
I was reading it over here. It's over here too. Okay, and so this will probably be our last question. We have 5 minutes left. Happy Friday, guys. I was wondering when you will be doing some updating on the contest page for know that our submissions of songs have been heard not selected, considered, or show any kind of result, just like the other opportunities we submit to. And for a company like Pulse, do they have sample links to show us what they are looking for? Okay, and this is probably a question for me because I'm doing that. Okay, that is absolutely true. The contest submission page is different than our music licensing opportunities page, and the actual software mechanism is different. But I think that's something we can bring up, and that's a good idea to show some of that, because to show some of that accountability stuff that we've patented. I don't think patented, but it's our. I mean, we're the only site with all the accountability stuff because we want you guys to know you're not sending your music into a black hole. I know I've done it. I've submitted music to all the sites over the course of years, and Broadjam's the only one that's like they listen to it. Here's what they selected, and here's what they considered. And that, that's one of the reasons I get excited about working here, is because I know that we have accountability, and that the things we're doing are real. And I don't feel that you guys are never sending your music into a black hole.
One other point too, Mike, is we're also going to say when we don't have anybody selected. Yeah, we want you to know this is a tough industry, and when somebody gets selected or considered, we want you to know that. We also want you to know when they passed on us as well.
Right.
We don't like that.
And that's that we don't like that. And so I'll call people about that. Like, you sure you didn't hear anything good in there? Right. Like, we'll send emails and check in and encourage them in a lot of different ways to select songs from Broadjam artists. But right now, it's true. The contest mechanism, because it wasn't built for some of the same kind of things, but now we're working with different partners, it's evolving. So that is definitely something we want to do to make it more, and also samples to show people what they're looking for. That's something I can do as well. And especially with Pulse Records, we have examples of placements. Yeah. So if they're looking for something for the Tony Hawk Ride Network, we can play you the artists that have been selected for the Tony Hawk Ride Network and play you that YouTube clip from our site. We're coming on to a new round of these kind of contests, working with them, and that's something we'll work to do. To just be like, so that's one of the things. We work with a company called Tinderbox Music, putting songs into reality TV shows, Discovery Channel libraries, things like that. And one nice thing that they do is that they send us, hey, here's a band that was featured in the NASCAR network, that we picked from Broadjam. Here's a band that was featured, and this is an exact placement from our company. And so I try to put those up and let people know about those, because it's like, you want to see what works? Here's somebody who did the exact same thing you did, submitted a year ago, and here's his song on the show.
Yeah. And we always wish we had more placements. I mean, we will never have too many. We will never have too many. Yeah, I mean, we are going to constantly work at trying to get more placements, but it's a great question. And is this Cindy's?
Yeah, I believe that's Cindy.
Great. She does some great stuff.
And so that's our job, is to help promote our artists, and that's why we're here and working in the extremely easy entertainment industry.
Oh yeah. This
is nothing.
Well, and just from a perspective, remember, there's probably, I read some estimate one time that there's 25 to 30,000 publishing companies and libraries in the world. There may be more than that. There's 100,000 labels out there too. So it's not an easy business.
Including the one in my basement.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's true. There's a lot of competition, and we just got to keep working it. We got to do a better job. We got to find better music, and we got to find more and more supervisors to work with.
Right, and that's, and
we're going to keep doing that.
In 2 minutes, when this Hangout ends, that's the next thing I do, is get up and walk over there and send another email to meet more people and to get more opportunities, because that keeps us going, and that's fun. Like, when you have a real opportunity, it's fun, and you can see that people can get some success from it. That's exciting. It's Adam, okay, actually we'll probably finish with this question, because it's a question directly about the top 10 contest listing for pitching to Nashville. How many songs are being selected? And is it a sit-down pitch or mail-in pitch? And he's curious, since it's a new way, and obviously we've worked with Adam before, and he's had some success, and he's brilliant.
Well, he's one of the best writers on our site, period. I mean, there's no argument.
Well, once he gets past the Roy Elkins profile and the Sunspot profile, Adam maybe shows up.
Yeah, he's third.
Yeah, I was going to say, he shows up in the top 8. Yeah, no, it's it's fantastic music. It's brilliant music. But, how we're going into that, it's going to be direct pitch with
Yeah.
personal kind of with people that are personally known. It's not going to be mailing in or anything. It's
The idea behind this is that we're going to call people directly and just be on the phone and walk them through the songs over the phone. And when we make a trip to Nashville, hand them CDs, listen to the songs, and we're going to schedule that ahead of time. That's not uncommon. We've done it a little differently over the years, but we want to get, just like we were telling you as far as preparing our customers and preparing your profiles to pitch to your customers, but we want to improve our end of it as well. We want to get more face-to-face contact and, you know, play music in real time for somebody and get the feedback directly. So, and we're starting to see a little, you know, a little headway here. So we're real excited about this current round because we're getting some good stuff.
And we are. And one of the reasons that we introduced it, too, is because we were seeing a demand for people who wanted some kind of representation, but didn't want, they weren't able to, because of co-writers or a variety of different things, share publishing. They couldn't share publishing, and so that's why we're seeing a lot of people like, hey, and that's, I mean, and because of that, that's why the opportunities are more expensive and stuff. Right. But people were asking for it, and so we're going to take the best music and then do it in just a little bit of different way, so that we can also help the artists that can't share publishing. And so, you know, and let's see.
And that's kind of the impetus of this, and I hope that, I mean, I was in Nashville a couple months back, and basically handed 11 different people 4 or 5 CDs of music, and you know, some of it's starting to evolve, but it's as you know, Adam, and everybody else on here, it's a long process, especially when you're pitching, and you know, trying to get inside that Nashville circle is a hard thing, but we're making some headway.
But one of the other things we're also working on is the mechanism. So, you know, Cindy was asking about people, you know, being selected. You find out when somebody's selected, but how do you find out when somebody's considered or listened to or all those kind of things? And part of this is we want to introduce is, you know, showing everybody when pitches happen. And so making it accountable on every aspect. And this isn't just when you're working with Top 10. This could be working with Pulse or some of our different, or Manic Monkey, or the different partners that we're developing on this kind of thing. Is that, hey, they can say that you know, it was this song was pitched on this day, and this is what it was, a TV or it was a film, or I mean, they may not want to put like, here's who I talked to at the studio, because sometimes artists will be like, I'm going to call him. Like, I'm just going to call that guy.
Right. And the studio will just nix it right away.
And it's, and I know that sounds like, like paranoid, but I've seen that ruin deals. I have seen that ruin deals by going past your representation. And
it's
the last thing we want to do is ruin a deal.
You know, but I think the answer to both of your questions, we just want to get better at what we do. We want to get better at what we do, just like you do. We, you know, this is, in some ways, this is our song, and we just want to make it better and better, and we just want to get better at what we do. And and Adam and Cindy, we're always going to explore new ways to do new things and new ways to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
And that's how you sell product, and that's what we're going to continue doing, at least as long as I'm here.
Right, and continue to have fun. Like, the idea is to make this a fun place to go to work on your music career. So that you get excited. I mean, I get excited when I post listings. Like today, if I see that, I'm like, budget's $10,000. You know, they're looking for this kind of music. They're willing to listen to independent pitches. Like, that's exciting for me. Like, I want to go out and write a song. You know, I want to get in there and participate and be in the process. And when we see that, that's what makes every day exciting to come to work. Okay. So we're going to thank you, Mark Nordine. I don't know who you are on the site yet, but thank you.
I've heard his music.
Okay,
he's good. He's good. He's very good.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you for
glad he's on here.
Jumping in. And the reason there was no QA was my fault. I started it before I enabled the Q&A button, and with Google Hangouts, unless you have all that stuff in the beginning, I'd have to restart and send out a new link to the Hangout. That was the last thing we wanted to do. So everybody that was like, oh, I'm just going to write on the event, and all the people watching, thank you very much for doing that, and
thanks a lot.
Thanks for the questions.
Thanks for being members.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for keeping us going, and keep on writing. And if you have any questions, you can email me personally. I'm Mike at Broadjam.com. Mike at Broadjam.com.
Broadjam.com.
And if you want to talk to Roy,
I'm Roy at Broadjam.com.
And
you can send us an email anytime.
Right. Anytime. And we'd love to answer questions. If you need help with something, just, you know,
Yeah, just send us.
if you have a question about a certain opportunity, a certain listing, or how to do something in the site, send it to us. If we can't answer the question, we'll find somebody who will.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. Hey, everybody, have an awesome weekend,
everyone.
and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Awesome.